Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you again. So now we're moving into the next module. We are now in module 3. And so I'm going to go over everything with you here. First off, this module is about the role of entrepreneur in social life and social progress. So we can look at the overview and objectives here, and we can understand what this course is about. And so it's aligning to our course level objective, identifying the social and economic impact of entrepreneurs in society, which is a good fit. Our module level objectives recognize the role and economic impact of an entrepreneur or the entrepreneur, and identifying a social progress with an economy. We're going to look at those because it pertains to being an entrepreneur. We have a list of activities that we'll be going through. I will leave the opportunity for you to view the videos on your own. I'll mention them, and then I'd like you to go through all these activities, but I will provide a lecture for you on the slide deck. And then we have some assignments here. We have the first quiz for the Creators Code, which is the introduction in chapter 1 through 3. So you want to be sure that you have read those chapters. As I mentioned earlier, that you can find the Creators Code and All in Startup, the 2 textbooks for this course. They're available online as a PDF version, and you can download that at no cost. This is what I'm told by other students. So please make sure you have that available. You'll have it instantly, and then that way you can start reading it. The chapters are fairly small, so I think that you'll get through them pretty quickly. And then also for the assignment, you want to complete the information from module 3 for your exam 1 review sheet. So that way you have the competitive edge, plus it's a graded assignment. So you want to be sure that you take care of that. You don't submit this until module 5, but you want to, record that information from each module as we move along. Otherwise, it's an overwhelming task. If you wait till the last minute in module 5, just before it's due, it's hard to come up with that much information. So take your time and do it within each module. It makes it manageable for you. All right, so let's get started. So now in module 3, we are to read the Creators Code, chapter 3, Fly the OODA Loop. Here's the slide deck. I'm going to open that up and provide you with lecture information on that. The role of the entrepreneur resources. So open this up, please, and view each of these resources that we have here. I believe it's mostly videos. So here, The Men Who Built America. I just want to say something here, that there are women who helped build America also. And this video is very good. It's a brief excerpt from the larger version, and I would encourage you to watch the larger version, the complete version of this on the History Channel if you have the opportunity. It goes into some really interesting stories about our early titans that were entrepreneurs during the Industrial Revolution period. And one of those, well, there were several, of course, but Kellogg happened to be one of those. There were 2 brothers, the Kellogg brothers. One wanted to have this spa-like type of retreat for people who needed assistance, who wanted to refresh their body and eat healthy and just take good care of themselves, pamper themselves. And the one brother, Kellogg, who ran this spa-type place, created a cereal that he thought this would be healthier alternative for them to have this cereal. Now, the other brother wanted to market that cereal because food, they didn't have refrigeration well at the time. There were ice boxes where they would bring ice cubes, and that would help keep things cold. But once the ice cubes melted, well, then you need another ice cube, big ice cubes. But there were no actual refrigerators. There were no freezers, and meat went rancid often. As a matter of fact, on a side note there, because meat went rancid and people were eating bad meat, they would try to disguise the awful taste of rancid meat, and they would put things on it, and that is how ketchup came to be. So that's an interesting story of Heinz, how he developed ketchup during that particular time to disguise the nasty taste of rancid meat. Anyway, back to Kellogg. So the two brothers were at odds about what to do with the cereal. One brother, no, I don't want to take it out for everyone to purchase. I want them just to come to the spa here and have the cereal to help replenish their body. But the other brother, no, we really need to market this. Well, during this discourse time between the brothers, a gentleman by the name of Post happened to come in. We all know that name. He happened to come into the spa. He needed to rejuvenate himself. And what did he do? He went into the desk drawer and stole the recipe for the cereal. And then, of course, he created his own Post cereal with Kellogg's recipe. So he had done quite well for himself, Mr. Post. He also, many people were sick during that time for eating bad food. And one gentleman decided to go, he liked to hunt and go to cold places. So he was up someplace, Montana, I believe it was, I'm not sure, but someplace very, very cold. And he was fishing, and he had caught some fish. And because it was so brutally cold outside, he would just leave the fish outside. It was like an instant refrigerator. Left the fish outside, came inside, and they had just a fireplace as a cooking stove. Put a pan in the fireplace to cook the fish, grabbed the frozen fish, put it on the pan, and the fish started defrosting. And so many fish are able to, if they're frozen, they defrost, but they're still alive. And so what happened was the fish defrosted and started flopping around in the pan. It was alive. And this gentleman who witnessed this, his name was Birdseye, right? That was his real name. His last name was Birdseye. And we know the name Birdseye from frozen food, right? So he got the idea, voila, what I'm going to do is I'm going to market frozen food for people because this will cure this problem of rancid food, and it will keep it frozen until and have it very fresh for them when they're ready to eat it. The problem was there were no freezers developed at that time. Anyway, fast forward, Post was ill, and he had built quite an empire with his cereal company. He passed away, and but before he passed away, he was at a fairly young age. He had a daughter who was 24, 27 years old, somewhere around that time frame. And then that era, women did not run companies, but she was his only heir. And what happened was she took over the company. So she goes into the board meeting with all these other men at the board meeting, and they're have the attitude of, oh, don't worry, dear, we'll take care of everything. You don't have to worry about anything. You can just stay home and keep yourself looking pretty. But she had a different idea. And she said, oh, no, I will run this company and you will take directions from me. So she was a bold young woman, and she did take the company in some very good directions. One of the things that she pursued, she reached out to Birdseye, bought his company, and then because there were no refrigeration, no freezers or anything, she worked out an arrangement to have freezers made and put in stores so that the frozen food could be in stores. A very genius woman, really very smart. There are a lot of women who built America also. So I just wanted to mention that because it's not in the video. Next, we have Seth Godin, What Matters, a good video. These are very short videos. Another video here with Elon Musk, his highs and lows. He had a lot of failures in his life, but kept persisting. And that's what most entrepreneurs do. You know, failure is not a failure. It's really just moving forward with what you need to do. Okay, so let's go to the slide deck, and we're going to move forward with social science here. The role of entrepreneur in social life. Okay. So, and, you know, any entrepreneurial endeavor is considered social science category, right? So we're studying humans, their behavior, the relationships, and that's part of entrepreneurship. We need to know about this information. Muhammad Yunus, a very interesting man. If you haven't heard about him, he is a social entrepreneur from India, realized that the country had so many people, many more people than the United States, and they all really had a desire to be entrepreneurs. And so what he decided to do was lend them money, some as little as $5, to help them start a business. Now, the $5 can do quite a bit in India during this time when he lent this money. He was able to get them to perhaps purchase some livestock and then start a business by propagating the livestock. He had lent them money to buy a taxi so they could start a taxi service. A lot of different small businesses were created during that time. Now, you may say, well, lending $5, you're not going to make much money as a bank if you're only lending $5 or just a few dollars per person. The interest rate is minute. But because there are so many people in India, he made up with quantity. So he had many more people wanting these small micro loans that he became very profitable from his venture and really served a need, helping people to become entrepreneurs. So wonderful work on his part. Here, comment from Mohammed, all human beings are entrepreneurs. When we were in the caves, we were all self-employed. In a way, you might say that as cavemen, we were, you know, finding our food, feeding ourselves, doing what is needed. So in an entrepreneurial, having those entrepreneurial skills. Okay, let's move on. So here, progression, human development over time. We had a decline of farming, and then we started going into the service industry. And then now we have the modern entrepreneur, services and technology mainly, right? So that's where we're working in those spaces. So what do individuals do? Individuals do create value, right? So entrepreneurs create value, creating something new, but entrepreneurs also create something new. And what's the difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur? Well, I think we went over this in the last module. An entrepreneur works for themselves, right? They run their own business, where an intrapreneur has entrepreneurial skills, but works for someone else. So they are an employee of another company, but they have those wonderful skills. So they work for an existing company. Okay, so just went over. All right, so creating value. So we can look at, we all know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Certainly when you think about entrepreneurs creating value, create value in many different areas. If you're looking at Maslow's hierarchy here, we can say, well, from the pandemic, certainly safety was an area where people were really afraid to leave their homes at one point in the beginning of the pandemic. And there's opportunity there to create value for people because they don't want to leave home, you know, finding ways to deliver things to them instead of having them leave their home. All right, so there are opportunities. The value of utility. So we'll just move this out of the way here. So when we have utility, we can look at the function, right? So what do the products deliver? How can we tweak something to deliver a better product, the function of delivery? The form, how is it being delivered? What form does it take? What shape is it involved in? Can we tweak that somehow to make a difference? The place that it's offered for sale, perhaps we can make a change there, right? So instead of someone coming to your restaurant, maybe you can bring the food to them instead. Some of that has already taken place, but the place that it's available to people, if we can make a change in that area. And then possession, perhaps we can offer some type of free trial, get them to try it, and then hook them in for the subscription. Time is money, right? So to many people, they relish time, and I do too. Many of us do. We want to have spare time. And sometimes, depending on what we need done, we'll pay for that instead of us doing it ourselves, right? We would pay someone else because our time is valuable. We could spend our time doing something else. So the value, a form of time, right? So it is a real cost. And so what I do when I'm flipping my houses, I don't want to spend all my time doing plumbing work, electrical work, doing demo work. I do a little bit of demo work, but you know, I can't be doing everything. And I need to hire people, subcontractors, to do that work for me so that I have time to focus on other things. Here, the time value of money. Here's an interesting example here, looking at a 3-pound chicken. So this was from 1919. I don't know if you can see this down here, but from 1919, the money, while the money price of a 3-pound chicken fryer, right, 3-pound fryer, has risen from $1.23, that's the cost at that point, in 1919, to $3.15 today. Well, today being, this example was 1997, right? So now they're like $4.99. You can get one, you know, completely cooked for you at Costco for $4.99, right? I think Walmart has them at the same price or close to it. But here, what's so interesting is that the time value, right? So in real time, it took 2 hours, 37 minutes to prepare that chicken in 1919, whereas in 1997, it took 14 minutes, right? Now we're talking about a raw chicken ready for purchase, right? But you know, interest in everything has changed over time in making production better. And also the amount of chickens we sell today is much more than what was sold in 1919. Right, so we have to take those considerations. People eat quite a bit of chicken in today's world compared to back in those days. But interesting when you're looking at the cost of dollars, right, as opposed to the minutes of time taking to make this chicken. So you can see how interesting this graph shows here, this information. So the Men Who Built America, I kind of went over that with you. I think it's a really interesting story. If you have the opportunity, please view the whole video. There's other very cool stories in there too. And I think you'll find it interesting. So one thing that's that you'll find from the video, that brief short video on the Men Who Built America, was that most of these people, I'm going to say people because there were many women too that built companies, most of these people were, you know, did not know what to expect. This was new frontier, new area. And we have that now too. We have new areas that we're working and building. You can see what Elon Musk is doing, brand new territory. It's a little bit like going down a foggy road. Where do you end up at the end? What is down this road? Are you going to travel down this road 100 miles an hour into the fog? No, you're going to go slowly. You're going to approach it slowly, but you don't know what's there in the fog. And so preparing yourself as an entrepreneur for new things to come about and having yourself prep for them. So you don't accept no, learn by doing, demonstrating leadership, of course, solutions without actually seeing ahead down the road, trying to come up with solutions or ideas, the courage to pursue your dream, and then, of course, collaborate. Again, back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, some of these areas are crucially important for an entrepreneur. Looking at happiness, joy, fun, recreation, work-life balance. How important is that? If you've read the book of Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, excellent book, changed my life when I read it when I was in my 20s. It made a big impact on me. And one thing that I took really to heart was you need to have some work-life balance. You need to sharpen the saw is the term that Covey used, is that when you take some time to recuperate and refresh yourself, to relax, then at that point, you're sharpening the saw. So when you go back to work, you have a sharp saw, and then you're bright and clear-headed, and you can get work completed. Here's an interesting graph also that we threw in that just shows the evolution of different types of electronics over time. And you can see how long it takes or what the percentage is within a household. And you can see certainly towards the end here, everything is rising exponentially compared to where it was. So, you know, when we say qualifying value, we're talking about if we need to, in our marketing realm, when we're thinking about marketing, we need to quantify the value that we offer our customer. And here, looking at two different options. Option one, we have the best product around. It's going to save you a lot of time with tasks that you do every day. I look at that and I'm like, well, I don't know about that. I'm not sure if I want to pursue it. But here, option two, our product is a 10-time improvement on the competition. It will save your company $50,000 annually. Well, now I look at that and I'm like, wow, 10 times better than the competition that is knocking on my door, and you're going to save me $50,000 annually. I think I want to hear about this. So when we quantify, when we add the dollar amount here and we add 10 times, when we quantify the information, we have a much better chance of our customer understanding the value that we provide. So is value created and distributed equally around the world? Not really, no, it's not. And we can take a look here, entrepreneurs in activity within many different countries. And you can see here, the highest level here is actually in Zimbabwe. So now, why do you suppose that is the case? And where's the United States? Right down here, right on the average line of entrepreneurial activity. Now, of course, this was late 90s. But here, so why? Because these countries over here are necessity-driven entrepreneurs, not opportunity-driven. So we in the United States are opportunity-driven. Europe, countries like that, where necessity-driven entrepreneurs are very different. And those countries have many more of those people, where in the United States, we may have more employees. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here, necessity-driven in this area, opportunity-driven. And when we look at the social progress index, so this is another area I want to just focus a little bit of attention on. We have our basic human needs, right? So that's one category, you know, having shelter, you know, bottom line of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need those basic needs. We also need foundations of well-being, right? So, you know, access to knowledge, basic knowledge for certain, health and wellness, a good ecosystem, you know, access to information and communication. So those areas are also factored in the social progress index. Lastly, opportunity, you know, personal rights, equality and inclusion, personal freedom of choice, and access to higher education. So these are the nucleus of the social progress index. When we look at the chart, here's regression analysis, we can see that it's not linear at all, right? It's all over. This is a chart that everything is, you know, in all different places. Here, what's on the highest level of the chart? Norway, right? Because they're very socially inclined, and they have a small population, and they have a lot of money, so they're able to do so. Other countries are spread out here, are some outliers that are away from this social progress curve. Where do we fit in? So here, United States is 19, or it was 19 in 2016, right? So we could take a look at, well, why? Why was that? Well, in 2016, at that point, we were overperformed really in very few areas. Actually, it is you can't see it down here, but it's access to higher education is the area that the US overachieves. But the other areas are either neutral or actually underperforming in these areas. So that's why we have not ranked as high. We're working on trying to make that better. So the cardinal rule, always ask why, right? What makes you tick? So these are the questions that you want to be asking to find out how entrepreneurial you are, right? Why this business venture is important to you, why should you care, and why is it important to anyone? And what will it take to be successful? Is it worth failing at? Failure is a large part of being in business, and you want to be able to accept that failure, feel comfortable with it, learn from it, and then move forward. Okay, so we reached the end of this module, and I just want to move this out of the way. Go back to modules here, and I will go ahead and post this in module 3 for you. Then I just want to mention that, of course, you want to review the role of the entrepreneur resources that I mentioned earlier, and then complete the exam 1 review sheet for module 3 information, and then take that quiz after reading those chapters. Now I'm going to move on to module 4.